Assurance conference, an international conference, and it's very difficult to organize such conferences, and it's a pleasure to welcome people from all over the world. This government is faced with two issues really. One is quantity. Of course, more educated people, children out of school have to be brought into the system, and more higher education at levels which we think the country needs, and we are far behind. At the same time, as you improve quantity, we can't allow quality to go down. So with two major issues to improve quality and also to improve quantity. In the lower education or primary and secondary education, there were surveys which were being done in Pakistan by ISER, and for the first few years they were looking at building structures, the availability of washrooms, the possibility of washrooms being available, boundary walls when security was an issue. And after a few years, all of us realized that quality is the issue which has to be measured. And when the parents were talked to, they appreciated the fact that structural changes have taken place in schools. There's better furniture, etc., etc. But 70% of the parents, 70% of their focus was on better education for their child. It didn't really matter. They would bend over backwards, they would sacrifice their hard-earned money to put them into private schools, because quality is very important. First is access, and the second is quality. But it has always been a very difficult thing to look at quality. If you consider that you have to have a good product, in our normal routine lives, we look at quality in two forms. We look at the product, and we look at the people selling the product or developing the product. And the product has to be good and will be good if the people developing that product are good. So there are two issues, primary issues. And this is not a problem really, it is a continuous dynamic problem. It can be called an issue today, but it has to be modified. Even in the most developed of countries like the United States or in Europe, there will be a continuous improvement of quality based on better human understanding, better technological availability of inputs, and studies in which it is learned that this is the manner in which people understand an issue better. It's a continuous learning process in life for us and in institutions as well. Whenever I look at an issue, and I believe that is what you all would be doing, whenever I look at an issue, for example, I identify it, and like Dr. Tariq Benori said, you define the issue. I identify it, and then I fence it. I make sure that I do not include issues which are unrelated at the border of my concern. I fence it and I say this is the issue, whether it's a dynamic issue or a static issue, but this is the issue. If I need to have quality improvement yearly, and it has to continue all my life and in the life of the institution, but this is the issue. The second thing, then it comes to the fact that whether I am committed to it. Commitment is very important. How committed am I? Therefore, I believe that the establishment of Quality Assurance Agency is the first level of commitment, where you established a sub-institution to look at quality. Then that commitment from me can be, if it's a smaller issue, it can be a family issue, it can be a national issue or international situation. So the commitment has been defined that we have to do it. Then you look at solutions, you define solutions, you look at your own experience and the experience of other countries, you learn from other people. That's how you reach a solution. Again, as soon as you develop a solution, then you have to look at your own ability to implement that solution and the timelines in which you will implement that. The ability, His Excellency, our Minister of Education has just mentioned the fact there are cost constraints. So therefore, you define that ability. You can't have a program which actually the country can afford to implement in 3 years, and you make a claim that you want to implement it in a year. What happens then? There is frustration, and the fact defeatism creeps in. So therefore, timelines are very important in whatever you decide to do. And I believe by the end of this conference, you will be talking about this. My frustration, for example, even at the Office of Presidency is, the people, when they evaluate people, and I'm sure very important issue for me, for example, in decision making, is selection of people in higher education. Those which come to me, for example, the vice chancellors, etc. And I've found, if I look at annual reports of people, they're standard. There's no distribution in that. Everybody is excellent. Now, I have a file in which I am not able to discriminate between 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Everybody is perfect. So therefore, in the current reforms which are being done by Dr. Ishrat Hussain, he has looked at evaluation reports, yearly evaluation reports in the bureaucracy, and he has said that these reports should have a statistical distribution. And as you are experts here, I don't need to define to you statistical distribution, that there are averages and there are better and there are poorer. And all reports stemming out of different departments or ministries should have a statistical distribution. Otherwise, the reports are not valid. So the first problem which I came across, and I do come across all the time, are these in annual reports with no statistical distribution. Now, I have been evaluating people for fellowship examinations in the College of Physicians and Surgeons almost the last 20 or 30 years. And we came to conclusions that somehow all examination systems, and that is evaluation systems, whether it's you are selecting people for these important jobs, or whether you are educating people and then evaluating your students, in all those areas, you have to have an objective based system rather than subjective. When I got educated, there used to be a theoretical exam, and then there was a practical exam, and the major part of the practical exam was the viva. And every time people came out of that viva and you asked me, viva kaisa hua? Viva acha hua. Viva bahut kharab hua. Wo mere piche pad gaya. In Urdu, I am stating what people used to say. Some people were very happy and some people were very depressed, because the examiners had the freedom to ask anybody any question, and therefore it became quite subjective. And we implemented that system in College of Physicians and Surgeons, that even the viva questions have to be written down, their answers have to be written down, and the same questions have to be asked with everybody. So therefore, from subjectivity to just an interview, we defined the interview process in clear terms so that no mistakes can be made. And this is again still determining their ability to perform will always have a question mark despite what you have done. So therefore, these are not easy things by which you implement systems within institutions. I have been running my hospitals or 2 dental clinics, and I implemented on my own the ISO standards, wrote it myself, because I thought that if I get a company to be able to write that, I know how to improve my system. So I wrote every process down in determinable quantities and efficacy to be signed off by every employee, including myself. That is the only way. When you have a checklist, which is rather not vague, that the system is good, not vague that we provide good services, but you should be able to quantify. For example, in dentistry and in medicine, sterilization is very important. You can't afford to make a mistake. So therefore, and you keep on employing people every few years, a new one comes in, there has to be a system by which this person is put into a place so that you don't make errors. So therefore, ISO standards and the standards in education which you want finally to be able to implement and ask universities to be implementing upon themselves are important. So there are 5 or 6 levels. You evaluate students. We have to learn the best way to evaluate students, not to make mistakes. Evaluate teachers, and also at the same time to build the capacity of teachers to impart education according to the newer learned trends and technology. I think Pakistan has to struggle for that, and it is very important. Today I have continuously been talking about with the Higher Education Commission the fact that from institutions there is so much knowledge available in the clouds that what Pakistan can best do is also keep on sending people abroad for them to learn and come back. But this is a huge time situation. People go out 3 or 4 years spent abroad doing PhDs, then coming back and imparting education. It is far easier, rather than sending 1 abroad or 10 abroad or 1,000 abroad, do that as much as we can afford. But at the same time increase the level of education based upon knowledge to the 10,000 which are studying in Pakistan universities. So, when you evaluate students, you evaluate teachers, improve their efficacy, improve the efficacy of the students to learn, then improve your programs and make sure that you are at the cutting edge of what the world requires from us. Improving universities, having systems in which universities keep on performing better and improve their rankings. And in the end, I will recommend a book also as far as rankings and meritocracy is concerned. And therefore, keep on improving selection processes. International cooperation is very important. Pakistan is at a crossroads. Pakistan is emerging. Pakistan had been under a cloud whereby people could not come here under the cloud of lack of security, but I am so impressed by the fact that in the last few months it seems as Pakistan has been rediscovered. The Queen of Netherlands was here and moving around in Lahore, in the shops in Lahore, and the Prince of Wales was here. Prince Andrew was here and his wife was here to Pakistan. All of a sudden, Prince William was here and his wife was here, and they moved around throughout Pakistan. So therefore it is important that at the time when Pakistan is becoming visible to the world all of a sudden, and there were very high hopes. There are good indicators in the economy, there are good indicators in the systems. We are looking at so many social programs at the same time, but the most important part is the ministry which Mr. Shafqat Mahmood holds is education. We have to educate our people. We have to go to the cutting edge of, with 200 million people, we have to have a good quantum of people who can uplift our own, rather than looking at outside and looking at help all the time. We have to improve ourselves. Now in the end, while I believe that it is so important and this conference is very important, I believe it is that we have structures, we have institutions, and those institutions, rather than establishing new institutions, when I'm a chancellor in 25 universities and they keep on coming and telling me that we want to expand, and I keep on requesting them that you should expand. But at the same time, the first is that you have a building, you have people, you have teachers, you have students, you improve what you deliver. Like I made a statement a few days ago also, that we churn out about 26 to 30,000 software technologists, but not a very significant proportion of them do not get employed because the market wants better supply of a better qualified person, and we are not able to provide it. So that's where quality again comes in. You have a building, you have made all the investments, but the fact that knowledge which has to be funneled into my brain or the brain of that person who's sitting there, that it has to be more efficient with better syllabi and better techniques and responding to what the society demands. So one of the important things in which I communicate with the Higher Education Commission is the fact that the university should be looking at markets. What markets mean what the society wants. There is not, everything is not a market. What the society wants, and the university should be doing what is beneficial. At the same time, the education minister has mentioned financial constraints. We also have to bring our universities and the vice chancellors and the university system itself to look at cooperation beyond the government. Look at cooperation with industry. look at cooperation as far as research is concerned with other institutions as well, outside and inside the country. A lot of, in fact, all institutions in the world have some cooperation with the market for their funding. So that is one area which we keep on looking at. Now, in the last, I mentioned that I would recommend a book. It's on meritocracy by Stephen Mao. It has been translated into English, but it's a very good book which brings me to the last point. And my last point is, it is important that we have to churn out very efficient and very people who become achievers. But at the same time, I would like to stress as a layperson that education should be a pleasure. Education should be enjoyable. We are not creating stressed individuals. We should not be creating people who are perpetually under stress of achievement and perpetually who are elbowing each other away and perpetually who are under stress. This is a society which requires a balance, which needs a balance. 50 years ago, when the world resources seemed to be enough, it was fine. But today, there are areas where you have to develop human intellect, but at the same time, understand what the society is all about. There is much more beyond just elbowing people and just achieving excellence. In fact, averages are also there. Averages are also human. So therefore, all the struggle only for meritocracy is fine, good, but at the same time, at the pace where the human mind and the society and the families of these students can absorb it well. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. These are all the ideas which I have. Thank you.
नाज़रीन, इस्लामाबाद में मयारात और पॉलिसी के हवाले से बैनुल अक़वामी कॉन्फ्रेंस से सदर ममलिकत डॉक्टर आरिफ अलवी खिताब कर रहे थे। उन्होंने कहा कि तालीम के साथ साथ हमें हर शोबे में मयार